While viewers might complain that the Conners Season 7, Episode 4's Becky story started out a lot like one of Darlene's Season 5 subplots, the outing's ending gave her a fresher, sunnier fate. The large cast of the Conners have all faced their struggles, but Lisi Göransson's Becky might be the most unlucky character in the long-running sitcom's history. The love of her life, her original Roseanne love interest Mark Healey, tragically died off-screen in a motorcycle crash. Throughout the first few seasons of the spin-off, Becky dealt with the Conners killing off her mother Roseanne, alcoholism, an unexpected pregnancy, the near deportation of her baby's father, and almost losing her child to Child Protective Services because of her addiction. Becky has faced a long, rocky road to recovery that makes even Harris's journey throughout the Conners seem easy, so she has more than earned a happy ending. Fortunately, Season 7, Episode 4, Danny Boy, The Interview, The New Hire, and The Hanging Chad, proved she might just get one. Becky was unexpectedly honest in her The Conners Season 7 Episode 4 job interview. Darlene shocked employers with her sardonic honesty one season earlier. In Danny Boy, The Interview, The New Hire, and The Hanging Chad, Becky attended a job interview for a prestigious position as a tech startup's mental health officer. She learned during the interview process that this job would be a managerial role, which was music to her ears after years of barely scraping by financially. However, Becky seemed to screw up badly when her interviewer recognized her from Alcoholics Anonymous and she immediately overshared her traumatic past. Becky mentioned almost losing custody of her daughter Beverly Rose and blacking out in rapid succession, only for her embarrassed interviewer to admit that he hadn't heard her disclosures at their earlier meeting. Mortified, Becky resigned herself to the reality that she wouldn't get the job. This storyline was a near-perfect mirror of a subplot from Season 5, Episode 14, Adding Insult to Injury, wherein Darlene refused to tone down her sardonic, abrasive attitude during a string of disastrous job interviews. Darlene was too proud to change her demeanor, whereas Becky haplessly overshared before she could stop herself. Still, Becky's The Conners Season 7 storyline immediately called to mind the events of Adding Insult to Injury. Fortunately, both storylines ended very differently. Becky's plot ended with a surprisingly sweet twist when the interviewer, impressed by her bracing honesty and no-holds-barred attitude, called to offer her the job after a few days of deliberation. This was a welcome shock considering how much Becky has struggled to get her life back on track despite her best efforts. Becky's honesty paid off for her, unlike Darlene in The Conners Season 5. Season 5 Episode 14 saw Darlene's job hunt end in disaster. In contrast, Adding Insult to Injury ended with Darlene finally landing a job interview where the interviewer was refreshed by her honesty, but turning the job down for an unrelated reason. Although Darlene was also offered a relatively good job, she instead took on a less well-paid role so she could get Mark a free ride at SAD. Becky's big The Conners Season 7 win was very different from Darlene's Season 5 storyline since Darlene lucked out by finding someone who shared her sarcastic attitude whereas Becky's unexpected honesty was what secured her the job. Ames McNamara's Mark looks suspicious standing in the kitchen from The Conners Season 7 Episode 3. Related. The Conners Season 7, Episode 3's Mark plot makes while Roseanne's attitude toward Becky and Darlene often made the sisters seem more similar than they were, they have many important differences that are highlighted in this story. Becky is often too trusting, naive, and recklessly impulsive, whereas Darlene is usually too reserved, downbeat, and cynical. To illustrate the contrast, Darlene missed out on jobs because of caustic sarcasm during interviews, while Becky was embarrassed by oversharing her own personal history in the same setting. The Conners Season 7 Episode 4 gave Becky a well-earned success. Lisi Göransson's character has been through a few brutal years. Since the sisters aren't exactly alike, Darlene and Becky spent much of Roseanne's original run, the show's 2017 revival, and the 7 seasons of The Conners at each other's throats. As recently as Season 6, Episode 5, when sisters collide and the return of the grifters, they were still getting into multiple-day fights over who was smarter. Thus, Darlene and Becky's conversation made her ending even better as the siblings finally found common ground before Becky's big win. While The Conners Season 7's new characters are good for a few laughs, it was the sort of sweet character work that the final outing of the sitcom truly needed. Darlene even complimented Becky before the interview, while Becky admitted she benefited from Darlene's advice over the years despite their differences. Thus, although the Conners season 7 seemed to revisit Darlene's earlier story with Becky, this was a welcome surprise as the Roseanne spin-off nears its finale.